Hello again and welcome to another episode of I Want to Talk About This Album. And today I'm going to talk about Slayer. I'm going back to Slayer. This is I'm going through their catalog very slowly. I don't know in what order, but in the order they came out, I did, if you like Slayer, you can go back. I talked about Show No Mercy. I talked about South of Heaven. I talked about my favorite album ever, I think, which is not just Slayer album, favorite album ever, which is Rain in Blood. And I think that was all so far. I got a couple more to come, but today I'm going to talk about South of Heaven. And I'll tell you right off the bat, this is one of my favorite albums ever. It's my second favorite Slayer album. It's got to be, it can't be first because Rain in Blood is obviously, like I said, my favorite album ever. And but man, South of Heaven, I love. Can't tell you how much I love South of Heaven. It is my second favorite, as I said. And sometimes I like to talk about or explain what inspires me to do, because I got so many records and CDs and whatever to get through. And sometimes I talk about what inspires me on any given day or any episode to talk about a record. And the thing that kind of got me today to do South of Heaven or Slayer was after getting out of Metallica mode, which I'm still maybe not completely out of. You know, my attention kind of shifted towards Slayer because they recently, they didn't, I can't say they reunited or they got back together. That sounds very dramatic. But they have played a couple of shows recently. They announced, I think in the spring, that they were going to do a couple of shows after they famously said that they were done in 2019. I think it was early 2019. They said, or maybe even 2018, they said, we're done touring. We're kind of done as a band. I guess Tom Araya more than anybody didn't want to do it anymore. And so they played their last show, supposedly last show, in November 2019. And that was going to be it. And then they were gone for 5 years almost. And, which you almost didn't really even miss Slayer, because during the pandemic, almost every band was gone. So, Slayer not being around almost didn't even matter at that point. But then this year, and then I thought the timing was strange. A lot of people got really, really angry that Slayer was back after they said they were going to be calling it quits and they were gone for good. I don't know. I thought it was kind of stupid, and I thought if one band really was going to stick with the "we're done," idea, it was going to be Slayer. And some people got really, really mad, and it's stupid to get mad about that. I thought it was a little bit. I was surprised that Slayer got back together, but they did. I shouldn't say got back together. So they announced that they were going to do some festival shows, which they've played two of. I guess the first one was a few weeks ago, and that was their first show in almost 5 years. And then there was one that was canceled at the Louder Than Life Festival because of inclement weather. I think that whole festival was canceled. And then they just played another show this past weekend, which I guess was only their second show. And so Slayer has been on my mind a little bit. I thought that and Kerry King also, he's been talking for years about doing his solo album. And it was always, Mick Mars was the same thing. And all these guys, all these musicians always talk about it's like Donald Trump saying, I have the concept of a plan. That's kind of like what a lot of these guys do. They talk about, I've got so many ideas and riffs and all these things. And I'm in the studio and blah, blah, blah. And there's a hot woman outside my apartment, a dreadlock woman with a guy with a man bun. She's quite fetching, I would say. So getting back to Slayer, or Kerry King, I should say. So Kerry King talked about his solo project, and I'll give him credit. Man, he kept it really, really quiet, that it was Marcos Agata singing. And so very strange timing, though, that I can't remember who was first. Kerry King was first. He finally announced his album was called From Hell I Rise, and it was coming out whenever that came out, I think in June. And he was touring, and then shortly after that, it was also announced that Slayer was also coming back to play a few shows, which I thought was very strange timing. That they were both gone. You didn't hear about anything from Slayer or Kerry King for 5 years, and then within, I want to say it was a few weeks, they both had announcements that they were kind of on everybody's map again. So a little bit strange that once Kerry King got the ball rolling finally, that Slayer was also playing shows. But anyways, that's why Slayer is back on my radar, and why I'm going to talk about them today. South of Heaven, here it is. I got this ages ago. I got this probably well over a year ago for sure. And I'm finally getting around to it today. As I said, my second favorite Slayer album. I love it. This came out in 1988. I was a full Slayer fan for just about I guess I got into Slayer in, I feel like it was the spring or summer of '84. So I'd been a Slayer fan for quite some time at this point. And I had seen them live once or twice at this point. Oh, now my dog is barking at this hot woman. She's going back the other way. And so when this album came out, I was very, 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 excited for it, highly anticipated after Rain and Blood, which I loved. And I loved it right from the start. And, this album gets a lot of flack for, and I think especially in more recent years, rather than at the time, for it not, why would he bark at a hot woman? At least bark at, some guy on a bicycle or something, but don't bark at a hot woman. Dogs are not the smartest animals. So now I loved it at the time, and all my friends loved it. And when I saw them on this tour, which I did in November 1988, there was no talk of Slayer slowing down or selling out or anything like that. Rain and South of Heaven was just another Slayer album. And it was a great album that I and all my friends and everybody liked at the time. It was only, I think, in years after, and maybe even more in the internet era, and maybe I was too close to it. Maybe broadly more people didn't like it, and then because the internet makes you aware of everything that everybody hates, that was when I became more aware that, wow, really? This album was not where it was well received? Because that's news to me. But, it was, I think even the band talked about how, they wanted to slow down. The only album that they've ever done at that point and since that they actually made an effort before the album was being recorded, that they had something in mind that they were going to do. And that was going to be to slow down. I think they said that they said, we can't do better than Rain and Blood. We can't be faster. So let's go slower. And it's not, which is kind of deceiving. Now, it's not, on Rain and Blood, every song is fast. Every single of the 10 songs is fast, which are Angel of Death, Piece by Piece, Necrophobic, Altar of Sacrifice, Jesus Saves, Side 2 is Criminally Insane, Reborn, Epidemic Reborn, Postmortem, and Raining Blood. Every single song is furiously fast. This album has some very, very, very fast parts, very fast, very thrashy, just like Rain and Blood, but it did have some parts that were slower. But overall, I think it's very inaccurate to say that this is a slow album. And also, Tom Araya, I guess, was doing maybe more singing than screaming, although he has some great Tom Araya Slayer screams on this. But I don't know, man. I loved it. All my friends loved it. Slayer now doesn't like it. A lot of fans they don't like it. I think even Jeff Hanneman said that there were some songs, and I can't remember which songs who said that they don't like. I know Kerry King generally doesn't like this album. Jeff Hanneman said at least one song he doesn't like. I can't remember what song it is. And I guess through the years they've only really played the title track, South of Heaven, and Mandatory Suicide, I guess, have survived in all the years since then. Yeah, maybe here and there they did a few songs live, but those are the only two staples, is what they call them. So I'll get to a track by track now. To me, I'll say it again and again. It's a classic Slayer album. I'm just noticing this cover is a little bit different, and this was painted by or done by Larry Carroll, who also did Rain and Blood. So there are some similarities to it, but I remember it having the Slayer logo, the sword pentagram logo up here, and having it had a red banner here that said South of Heaven. Because there's nothing on here, I can't remember, maybe my original album was like this. Maybe it was the CD that had the red banner that said South of Heaven and Slayer, because there's no indication, there's no band name, there's no album name here. And there's the back of it there. So I'll open it up now and I'll go through it track by track. And I feel like I'm missing something, for as much as I love this album, I feel like I should have said more. And I always say a lot anyway. All right, so what's inside here? All right, it looks like there is an insert, a lyric insert. I'll Oh, I don't want to bend the record. All right, there we don't go. All right. Oh, and it's torn. Look at that. Look at that tear. Look at that. All right, let's see. So inside, I think it's just black vinyl. It's on the Deaf American label, and yeah, there's a better picture of it, and there's the lyric sheet. No photos except the one photo on the back, and there it is. So going through this track by track now, and I have to say I love every single song on this record. Everything. There's one that I, with one small exception, kind of, you can maybe figure out which one that is. And there's a good reason, I think, for not liking that as much, although I do like it. But every song on this album, to me, is not just good, but great. Every single one. And so the title track is South of Heaven, and it is a little bit slower, you know, comparing with what opened Slayer albums. The first one was Evil Has No Boundaries, very fast and thrashy. Hell Awaits, of course, is fast and thrashy. Angel of Death. So South of Heaven, it is a little bit slower. It's not thrash, but it is very, very Slayer. That opening riff of South of Heaven is, what word to use? Iconic? I mean, legendary? I don't know what you say, but man, oh man, that when that riff comes on, especially when they play it live, which I think is always piped in over the PA. They don't actually play it live. It's unmistakably Slayer. An unforeseen future nestled somewhere in time. Unsuspecting victims, no warnings, no signs. Judgment Day, the second coming arrives. Before you see the light, you must die. Forgotten children conform to new faith. Avidity. What does avidity mean? Avidity and lust controlled by hate. The never-ending search for a truth never told. The never-ending search of your shattered sanity, souls of damnation in their own reality, chaos rampant, an age of distrust, confrontation, impulsive habitat. Bastard sons begat your cunting daughters. Cunting, they're using cunting as an adjective. I don't think even that's a word. But who wrote the lyrics? Tom Araya? Yeah, Tom Araya wrote the lyrics. Bastard sons begat your cunting daughters, promiscuous mothers with your incestuous fathers. Ingrate souls, ingrate, E-N-G-R-E-A-T. I thought it was ingrate, like you're an ingrate. Slayer always makes you run to the dictionary. Ingrate souls condemned for eternity, sustained by moral observance and a domineering deity. I think that is. Yeah. The root of all evil is the heart of a black soul. The root of all evil is the heart of a black soul. A force that has lived all eternity. The never-ending search for a truth never told, the loss of all hope in your dignity. Just one of the best Slayer songs ever. Top 5 maybe for me. It's kind of weird with Slayer. As much as I love them, they're one of my favorite bands ever. You know, their stuff, it's all pretty much the same. You know, they're not as versatile as Metallica or, you know, Testament or somebody like that. So, you know, their favorites don't really stand out as much as some of the other bands. But yeah, South of Heaven is maybe a top 5 song for me. Love it. And, you know, I should say, and I should have done this before I said this before I did the track by track, but I forgot. This is one of the greatest, for me, one of the greatest drum albums ever. And I talked about this maybe a year, maybe more ago with my friend Dallas, who hopefully is watching this or listening to this. He mentioned that some time ago, and I said, yeah, I agree too. And I've always thought that the drums on South of Heaven, not just the sound of them, but the playing. I think the playing and the sound together, maybe this is getting very, very picky. Maybe even better than the drums overall on Rain and Blood. Not that he improved, Dave Lombardo improved, but just they sound more upfront to me on South of Heaven. And when I saw them on this tour in November 1988, there goes the woman again. Oh. All right. I'm getting a little show here. It's like I've never seen a woman before. I've talked before about this guy called Brian Taylor. God, I'm getting so off track. I got the dogs barking, the hot woman walking, maybe an earthquake. If you watch at the end, I'm going to have my first outtake. Stay tuned for that. A guy called Brian Taylor, who hosted a college radio, university radio show from Ryerson University, called the show that he hosted was called Aggressive Rock. It was on Tuesdays at 11 o'clock at night, I think, and on CKLN 88.1. And he used to play, Slayer and all kinds of really thrash metal and punk. And he produced, I think, the first 2 Sacrifice albums. Torment and Fire and Forward Determination. Maybe beyond that also he produced at least 1 Razor album. I think that was Violent Restitution. And I saw him at that show in November 1988 on the South of Heaven tour, and I saw him there as a fan, and he was air drumming. And I remember seeing air drumming at Slayer shows more than any other concert, which I guess tells you how great Dave Lombardo is. Getting back to this. So the next song is Live Undead. This is one that, it starts, sorry, I forgot Silent Scream. How could I forget Silent Scream? This one is fast and thrashy pretty much all through. South of Heaven kind of bleeds into Silent Scream, and it's fast and thrashy throughout. Nightmare, The Persecution, A Child's Dream of Death, Torment, Ill Forgotten, A Soul That Never Rests. Guidance, It Means Nothing in a World of Brutal Time. Electric Circus, Wild, Deep in the Infant Mind. Silent Scream, Bury the Unwanted Child. Beaten and Torn, Sacrifice the Unborn, or Sanctify Lives of Scorn. And there's the great part in this is, I don't know if it's a breakdown, what do you call it? There's a really, really fast part. Yeah, life preordained, humanity maintained, extraction, termination, pains, agonizing stain, embryonic death embedded in your brain, suffocation, strangulation, death is fucking you. Death is fucking you insane. It's got this great stop and go. Silent Scream is excellent. And I feel like I missed something about Silent Scream. Next is Live Undead. This one is also a little bit slower. I mean, at least it starts slow. It goes faster towards the end. Cascaded darkness, walls closed in on me, nailed shut but my eyes still see. Severe anguish as my body evolves, the pain of life after death it resolves. Emptiness and twilight's rebirth, the faint sounds of shriveled earth. Madness growing as your mind dissolves, merely secrets in my dream. And then there's a great drum fill there. This, now the part where it goes fast is one of the great parts on this album. And where does it start? It starts with a great scream. An echo bouncing inside my brain. How much can I take of the pain? And then the pain, and he screams and he holds that note really, really high, similar to the scream at the beginning of Angel of Death. And then for me, the next part, which is still kind of slow but really cool, a war raging deep inside my mind. This to me is the best Tom Araya vocal on this album. A war raging deep inside my mind. A war raging deep inside my head, a split decision that will end with me dead. You see the agony in my eyes. You see the agony in my... Protruding, aimless, I think it's time to... And then there's this great riff, and then die, screaming it, and then it's fast, and it's fucking Slayer. Here comes the woman again. What is going on? She and this guy are walking past again and again. If I were more ambitious, I would turn the camera around to show her, but that might be a little bit creepy. Yeah, and then, God, this is the worst episode ever. Or the best, I don't know. Best for me, maybe. I've never seen a woman before. What do you want? Oh, yeah, and then the fast part. Death walks inside you, smell death around you, hell's evil spell takes a soul. Hear the sound of the bell, counting off death's toll. That's a really, really fast part. This sucks. I'm totally losing my mind. I need to focus more. I'm like Donald Trump. The guy, he calls them weaves. And I feel like that's pretty bad when I say I'm not as good as Donald Trump at speaking. Oh my God, I just want to stop this video and start all over. I'm probably 13 minutes into this. It's too long. I'm committed to it. So next is Behind the Crooked Cross. This is one that one of them hates, either Hanneman or King. I think it might be Jeff Hanneman, and he wrote it. He wrote the music and the lyrics, and I think it is him that just hates this song. I think Kerry King maybe also hates it. This is kind of it's not a fast thrashy song, but it's a little bit more upbeat. Time melts away in this living inferno. Trapped by a cause that I once understood, feeling a sickness building inside of me. Who will I really have to answer to? March on through the rivers of red. March on through the rivers of red. Souls drift, they fill the air. Forced to fight behind the crooked cross. This also then has a great kind of like a break and a little an 8 count maybe, and then it gets fast and thrashy. Great song behind the crooked cross, and it's a little bit, at least vocally, the vocals are a little bit melodic. They're a little bit unslayer-like. Time melts away in this living inferno, trapped by a cause that I once understood. Doesn't really sound like Slayer, but I love it. Maybe that's why they don't like it. Next is Mandatory Suicide. Man, oh man, this is, as I said, one of the staples that's remained in their set. And for me, it's hard for me to pick a favorite from this album. Incredible song. And it's not fast. I don't think at any point it's not thrashy, but it is great. And there's a lot to love about this song, but the kind of spoken word part towards the end, it's not even spoken word. It is spoken word, but it's very, very quiet, and beginning with lying, dying, screaming in pain, begging, pleading, bullets drop like rain, minds explode, pain shears through your brain, radical amputation, this is insane, fly swatter stakes drive through your chest, spikes impel you as you're forced off the crest. A soldier of misfortune hunting with bated breath, a vile smell like tasting death, dead bodies dying and wounded litter the city streets, shattered glass and bits of human deceit, blood's cheap, it's everywhere. Dying terror, blood's cheap, it's everywhere. Mandatory suicide, massacre on the front line. I love that part. I especially love when they play it live. You know, on the record, Tom Araya, just as I said, he just kind of speaks it kind of quietly. But when they play it live, he starts, you know, kind of speaking quietly, and then he kind of raises his voice, and it becomes very, very intense. Mandatory Suicide, phenomenal song. And then on the second side, it starts with Ghosts of War. This is a pure, fast thrash song. This is, maybe they've played this over the years too. I feel like when I saw them, and I saw them a bunch of times over the years, I feel like maybe in one of the last shows I saw, 2011, 2013, because I saw them, I think, in both those years. I feel like they did Ghost of War back then. And this is kind of the opposite of a few of these other ones. It starts very, very thrashy, and now he's barking at a young kid. That's more understandable. This one starts pure thrash, and then there's this great part in the middle. I'm still with Ghost of War. You know that part, right? Leading to the lyric, I deal in pain, all life I drain. I dominate, I seal your fate. Slight pause. I deal in pain, all life I drain. Memories can't ignore. Rise, Ghosts of War. Awesome, fucking awesome song, Ghosts of War is. Next is, and I'm still shaken up by everything going on. Next up is Read Between the Lies. For me, this is kind of a little bit of a forgotten Slayer song. I don't know anything. I shouldn't say I don't know anything about this song. I do love it. I don't think they've ever played it live. I've never heard any fans say that it's their favorite song, but I've also never heard anybody shit on this song. I don't think I've ever heard Kerry King or Jeff Hanneman or Tom Araya or Dave Lombardo or anybody say anything good or bad about this song. It's just there, and it's kind of forgotten. And this is one. How does this one start? Read Between the Lies. This was, in 1988, and I don't know when that started or when it ended, but that was really big in metal circles for bands to talk about the TV evangelist. Ozzy had Miracle Man, which was about what's that guy's name? Swaggart, I think was his name. And Billy Graham, and was that his name? All these TV preachers, that were on TV and, give me your money. And Suicidal Tendencies had a song called Send Me Your Money, which is also about these kind of guys. Evangelist, you claim God speaks through you. Your restless mouth full of lies gains popularity. You care not for the old that suffer when empty pockets cry from hunger. Penniless from their generosity. Sharing the money to quench your greed. Searching for the answers to their prayers. They cry their last wish of need. Save me! It's a great song, but why doesn't anybody talk about it? I think it's not quite my favorite. It's an amazing song, but aren't they all? Next is no, there's missing. Oh yeah, Cleanse the Soul is next. This is one I know. This is one I remember. Kerry King hates this song. I don't know why. He calls this a happy riff. He said this is not like a Slayer, riff or Slayer song. He called it a happy song. To me, there's nothing happy about this. This sounds like pure Slayer. I assume they never played it live. I guess because Kerry King didn't like it. And Jeff Hanneman, I just see, wrote the music. He wrote way more on this. I think at this time, Kerry King, kind of like Gene Simmons in Animalized and Asylum, and in that era, he kind of checked out of Kiss. I think at this point, Kerry King was not fully invested in Slayer. Just looking at it now, he doesn't have too many writing credits on here. But yeah, I know Kerry King hates Cleanse the Soul. I think it's an amazing song. Next, now I mentioned there's one song that I was not exactly keen on, and it's because it's a cover, and it's Judas Priest, Dissident Aggressor, and I do like it, but I think over the years, I always loved covers, and I still do, but for me, covers on albums, and this has only been in maybe more recent years, they kind of, for me, take away a little bit of the focus of the album. It's kind of like covers would be great B-sides, or released it some years later on a box set or something like this. Having said that, I do really like Dissident Aggressor. I'd never heard of it before. I was not a Judas Priest fan. I'm kind of trying now, and I do like the original version, the Judas Priest version. I talked about that when I talked about. Oh, I gotta fact check myself. Wait, is that on? It's not a fact check. Is that on Sin After Sin? No, it's on Stained Class or Sin After Sin. Whatever album it's on, and I could be wrong, maybe it's not on one of those albums. It's on Stained Class? I think it's on Stained Class, Dissident Aggressor. Anyway, I really like the Judas Priest version. I think I like the Slayer version better just because it was the first one I heard. And I do like it, but I would have preferred, I guess, maybe another original Slayer song in its place. And the last song is Spill the Blood. This is one, somebody hates the song. I don't know if it's Kerry King again or Jeff Hanneman. Hanneman wrote this one again. This is a little bit of a different song at this point for Slayer. It had kind of a clean guitar intro. It did get heavy. This is maybe the most un-Slayer song on this record for sure. And up to this point, probably the most un-Slayer song in their catalog. But I do like Spill the Blood. So that's all. And let me just go through this quickly. Let's see how many times Kerry King's name appears. South of Heaven? No. Silent Scream? Co-write for the music. Live Undead? Co-write for the lyrics. Behind the Crooked Cross? Nothing. Mandatory Suicide? Co-write for the music. Ghosts of War? Co-write for the music. Read Between the Lies? Co-write for the lyrics. Cleanse the Soul, co-write for the lyrics, and that's it. So he doesn't have one solo songwriting credit, musically or lyrically. Maybe that's why he doesn't like this album so much. I don't know. I can put this back now. So that's it. What a strange episode. I feel a little bit relieved getting through this. I really stumbled, as I sometimes do. This was worse than ever. And what a terrible album I picked to stumble my way through, because I really do love it. And when I say it, mercifully, I'm ending this episode now. This is Slayer, the very slow, mellow, quiet album called South of Heaven. Hello again and welcome. What the fuck is going on here?